Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to Raptors Flex Plus. I am your host, Kyle, and you know the flex already, fam. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. And today I want to focus on Scottie Barnes. Okay. Um, it's not to focus on the X's and O's of Scottie Barnes. It's really to focus on the next steps that I think he needs to take in terms of his mental approach to the game, right? Not just the on-court stuff, but the mental approach to the on-court stuff. And in the last episode, I was talking about the things that need to happen in the peripheral. And what I mean by that are things like the work that you're putting in behind the scenes that us fans don't see. You know, I am not an insider with the Raptors. I don't have any sources at all in the Toronto Raptors organization. I don't know anybody that is associated with Scottie Barnes. These thoughts and opinions are solely just based on myself, right? The opinion of a Toronto Raptors fan. And I'm not here to put down Scottie Barnes or anything of that nature, but just to set the stage for this. In recent prior episodes, I've been talking about what it takes in terms of how to get to an NBA championship and how to win it. And one of the things that I called out specifically was that in order to win an NBA championship, you need a superstar player. It is very rare that a team that does not have a superstar player wins an NBA championship. And you have to really look back as far as the Pistons, which I believe was 2004, where maybe their best player was Rasheed Wallace. Maybe their best player was not Scottie Barnes, Chauncey Billups, Rip Hamilton. But essentially, it was a collection of players that were able to get the job done. And that is very rare in the NBA, right? It's almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity, it feels like, where a team that does not have a star player, a superstar player, wins an NBA championship. And there are a lot of fans out there that believe Scottie Barnes can make that next leap, make that next jump, and get to that status of superstar. Some fans are really disappointed that Scottie Barnes didn't make it to the All-Star game as a reserve. And in episode 46, I was saying I don't believe Scottie Barnes is going to make it as a reserve because the Raptors are 13 games below 500. And Scottie Barnes hasn't generally been the same player from the beginning of the season to now, right? Where he may have been, even if he was essentially the number one option, he still had Pascal Siakam there as that's probably the number one person on the scouting report for the opposition. Now that Pascal is gone, Scottie Barnes is learning how to play as the number one option on each opponent's scouting report. And that's going to take time in order for him to develop and get to a level where he is able to figure out how to navigate by being the number one option on the team. And it's not even just about that. Like, it's about figuring out how to make your teammates better, being that you are the number one option on an NBA team, right? So it's not that I don't believe Scottie Barnes can get there. Like, transparency, I do have reservations that he will be a superstar player, but I do see a lot of Magic Johnson in him, more so than a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant. But even still, those players had some similarities in terms of their approach to the game that vaulted them to the next level in terms of status in the NBA, and that is to be a superstar. Scottie Barnes right now is a budding star. You could argue that he is a star in the league, but me objectively, I'm saying Scottie Barnes is a budding star in the NBA, meaning that he can take that next step. Based on what we've seen from him from year two, let's actually go from year one, rookie of the year, to year two, where it kind of leveled out a little bit, to year three now, where in his junior year, he's taking another step forward in the evolution of his game. it appears to me that he put the work in the offseason, and it may just be that based on exit interviews or conversations over the summer, the Raptors organization most likely already signaled to Scottie Barnes that you are the future of this team. And maybe that was the motivation that he needed in order to put in that work in the offseason. But there are pieces of his game that I would like to see come together a little bit more. And one thing that I don't want to say concerns me, but looks like there is an area of opportunity is his approach to seeing the game. And listen, he's a very instinctual player, right? He makes fantastic passes. He makes good decisions, but he also makes some really bad decisions and some really bad passes, right? Like that's not to knock him or come at him or just be a critic of him, but this is like constructive criticism, right? In order to build that consistency, there are things that he needs to do in the peripheral, meaning when the lights aren't on, it's dark in the gym, you're at home, you're figuring out what to do with your time. Like there are parts to his game where he can be, or to his approach to the game, where I believe he can take another step forward. Okay. And I just want to show you an example of how I've come to some of this conclusion. And this is a video clip from January 17th. This is after the first game after we traded Pascal Siakam, and we dismantled the Miami Heat, who from there, I believe, started to go on like a 7-game losing streak or something. Um, but they asked him about the first play of the game that was run for the Raptors, which was a tribute to Coach Darko's friend that passed away, um, the assistant coach from the Golden State Warriors. And his response was kind of iffy, right? Um, it may have just been an emotional day. A lot of things are happening. So I don't necessarily want to make an excuse for him, but it happened. And I just want to share this and then talk about it just a little bit. So here is Scottie Barnes regarding that play.
Coach Darko had his friend pass away. He mentioned that one of the ATOs that you guys ran was something that he had learned. Do you know what play that was?
I didn't know what play was. We just went out there and ran it the first play and then learned after the game it was they got it from his buddy. It was a very emotional moment.
Do you remember which play that was?
First play.
I
think it was a double wave for me coming up, and then I got it was a slip up for quickly. And I think that's the play. I don't know. I don't know if that was a play. I think that was the play.
Because I think the first ATO was Grady had the assist to Dennis.
I don't think that was the play.
Okay, just wondering.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few in the game. Yeah.
Okay, so that was Scottie Barnes. Okay, he tried to recall the play, and it looked like he was kind of struggling to recall the play in terms of what the play was. Right, he was saying that there might have been like some double action to free up IQ, and then the reporter, I don't know who it was, mentioned that no, it was actually a play where Grady made the assist, and Scottie Barnes is just like, I don't know what play it was. I don't want to make a big deal about it, right? Again, there was probably a lot that was going on that day. And this is a player that literally now just stepped into the role of being the focal point, like the main focal point of this basketball team. Whether fans were saying this before or whether the media was writing about it, at the end of the day, we could all, or not all, let me not speak for everyone. I will say that this was probably still Pascal and Scottie Barnes' team when Pascal was here this year, like kind of a hybrid approach, like the baton was being passed off, but they were kind of maybe fumbling the exchange a little bit because there was a lot of inconsistency with how this team was playing. And that's kind of what led to the Pascal trade, which needed to happen. Okay. I'm not going to go back and be like, oh, we shouldn't have traded Pascal, because there was a point for me personally where I was saying we shouldn't have. And then there was a point after that where I said, I've seen enough. I'm on board the trade. And then literally the trade happened like a day or two after I said I was on board with it. But let's not lose focus of what I'm trying to say here. He wasn't able to recall the play. All right. And for me, I was also saying on the last couple of episodes that I believe that film will be a big part of Scottie Barnes taking the next step in his game, right? Because when you are just like a film junkie, right? Because this is literally what it takes from the greats, right? You have to literally obsess over basketball. In all of your free time, it's almost basketball, basketball, basketball all the time, right? When you're at home chilling, put on some film, pop some popcorn or something, watch the film, take notes, break it down. You know what I'm saying? And then once you start to understand the tendencies of other players, how they are playing you and how they're defending you, once you start understanding each play through and through, you know the coach's playbook in and out. In and out. And with basketball, it's not like there's a whole like set of new plays in basketball, right? A lot of basketball is just execution. And obviously teams have strategies and those types of things, but a lot of it is just execution, paying attention to detail. And you can actually find those little details in the film where it's like maybe I'm giving a tell just by how I moved my shoulder and you didn't even realize that you were doing that. Or maybe the way that your eyes move. Maybe you're staring down a play way too much and you're not looking off of it. Or maybe you need to learn how to work on your left dribble a little bit and strengthen your core so that you can keep the defender off of you and you know what's happening on the backside. And all of it is just timing. So you know when to move your head over to the next side of the court and make that pass or make that read, whether it's off of the screen, the back cut, whatever's happening on the other side, right? And I feel like Scottie Barnes needs to learn a little bit more in terms of just being more comfortable with all of the plays. All of the plays just in terms of being able to recall it, right? And that's not to say that he doesn't know the playbook and all that. I don't want to throw out narratives out there that are just untrue, that I don't even know whether it's true or not. All I'm saying is this particular example, he struggled to recall it. And then the reporter said, well, no, it was actually this and that. And then he just gave up and said, I don't know. Like, that almost should have been like, that play? Okay, let me tell you what happened on that play where Grady got the assist. You know what I mean? So, like, that's really understanding how to be a student of the game. And film is important. Film and practice. Those two things will, like, and when I say practice, I mean intentional practice. And I have two videos that I want to show you from Kobe Bryant that talk about those two things in particular. And then we'll come back and talk about Scottie Barnes. So let's start with the film conversation from from Kobe Bryant. And then we will come back and talk about Scottie Barnes.
What I observed a lot in my career is how players study film. Because now it's become like you watch game film and you see what you do right, you see what you do wrong. Okay, let's do more of that, let's do less of that, right? But the way I grew up, from Tex Winter, Phil Jackson, the way film was broken down, it was broken down to the smallest detail. It was broken down to the right angle. It was broken down to foot placement, timing, looking at the posture of a teammate. You know, what could he be thinking? What could he be feeling? Same thing with the opposition. You know, you watch the feed, watch players go into the timeouts, who's talking to who's not talking. You start looking at every little thing. And so watching the game for me would take like 5 hours. And that attention to detail is what's missing. So I felt like if I can put that in a show, and have the next generation, these 11-year-old kids, 12-year-old kids, start watching the game at that level, what are they going to be when they're 25? What level would they be at then? It's a passion of mine to get that thing going. Like I said, April 12th will be the first episode.
Okay. So that is Kobe Bryant talking about the importance of studying film and where he sees some of the younger generation falling short with some of that. And rest in peace to Kobe, man. We haven't seen a guy like that since Kobe, man. And it's very unfair in a sense that I'm saying Scottie Barnes. I'm not saying he needs to be Kobe Bryant, okay? What I'm saying is that you can listen to the greats and be a student of the game. And this is where I give LeBron James a lot of credit, to be honest with you. LeBron James is a student of the game. When you ask LeBron about a play, he can tell you every which detail of that play and more. And more. Just recall it, like right off the podium. And it's not to say that Scottie Barnes needs to be at that level, but in terms of striving for greatness, like this is what Kobe's talking about. All the small attentions to details that are going to make you better and your teammates better, just based on small things. And I don't know if coaches are still taking the same approach with younger players in the league. Excuse me, teaching them how to look at film. But for the fact that you and I can sit down and watch a basketball game for, I don't know, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And in there's commercials, there's timeouts, there's half times, end of quarters. Like when NBA players are watching film, they're not watching the timeouts and fast forwarding through the timeouts. They literally have a breakdown from like different angles, and it's just straight game tape, right? Game tape. If you were to just watch that game tape all the way through, maybe about an hour, right? Maybe a little bit more than an hour. Kobe's talking about it would take him 5 hours to watch a single basketball game. 5. Now, when you're like obsessing over the game like that, and you are pushing yourself to be better in even just the smallest, minute way, it travels. It travels a long way, not just in your game, but with your teammates, right? Because coaches also have at different points throughout the season where teams may watch game tape as a team. And I'm pretty sure I would not be surprised at all. Now, again, I'm not an insider. I don't know anybody in these industries. But it would not have surprised me if Kobe Bryant took control and leadership of that film session and started pointing out different things to players. And now they're learning a new way to watch film. You understand? So I know that there's a lot that goes into practice. I know that there's a lot that goes into individual workouts. But I also believe that watching film has a place, like a real important place if you want to be a great, if you want to be a superstar in this league. And I personally challenge Scottie Barnes if he could ever see this, right? Like, man, I know that sometimes Scottie's on Twitch playing video games. Like everybody needs to have a life, right? If your life is doing that every now and then when you just need to just break off from basketball a little bit and just do something different, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't have like a wife and all that type of stuff. He may have a gal or whatever, like I don't know. I really don't know, right? But man, obsessing over the smallest details to be better in order to take your team to that next level is something that I would love to see from Scottie Barnes. And when guys have that particular characteristic or trait, that means that they have something called it. They have it, right? And I believe like guys like DeMar DeRozan has like an it in him, because watching DeMar come back season after season after season and having those counter moves to how the defense is playing him and all those types of things, if you're not watching film in like some real detail, then you're not going to understand exactly what to work on in the offseason. Now, it just so happens, in my personal opinion, is that I don't think that DeMar DeRozan is as naturally talented as a Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes has natural talents that a lot of players don't have, right? But there's this old saying that I remember from back in the day, and it was hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard enough. You know what I'm saying? Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So it's like when you do have those natural talents, and you're working hard, and that's not to say that you working hard has to just be that you're a gym rat. There's a certain obsession that has to come with all facets of the game, including film. But that's also not to downplay the importance of practice either, right? But there's this real interesting approach that Kobe Bryant had in this interview where he's also talking about his approach to practice. And I want to play that also. So let's go ahead and play that for y'all real quick.
Well, I mean, here's why practice was important to me. Not from just the standpoint that I enjoyed playing. Like, I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed getting better. But as a leader of a team, it's also your responsibility to elevate the rest of the guys. And what people tend to get stuck on a lot is saying, okay, the way to make players better is to pass them the ball when they're open. That's a very trivial way to look at things. What you have to do is you have to get them emotionally to want to be better. You have to get them to an emotional space where they wake up every morning driven to be the best version of themselves, right? And how do you do that? Right? And in practice, for me, it was a chance to drive them, to challenge them, right? And this is where you have to know your teammates, because if it's late, we just had a back-to-back, and we had practice the next day, and you show up, and guys don't feel like going through the motions, don't feel like practicing. It's important to know each and every one of them individually, personally, because then you know what nerve to touch. Some guys, it's like, okay, come on, we can do this. That'll get them going. Other guys, no. You got to figure out what button to push. Powell was always Spain. If I tell them how they lost in a gold medal to us and how they're going to lose again, how I'm going to beat your ass in practice just like I beat you in a gold medal game, he would hate that. He'd hate that. But that's what practice was. You have to drive them. You absolutely have to. And if practice is more intense and harder than a Game 7 will be, then a Game 7 will be easy. But if it's not, then that's when teams start folding and capitulating.
Wow. Come on, man. So, again, the great Kobe Bryant, man. And I'm not comparing Scottie Barnes to Kobe Bryant in any stretch. All I'm trying to do is just show the mentality of the greats and their approach to the game, right? Kobe said that he enjoyed practice, but the important part of it for him was as a leader, because I talk about this a lot on this channel about where are the leaders on this team, who are the leaders on this team. I believe that Scottie Barnes has the ability and intangibles to be a leader on the team, a vocal leader on the court. But again, it's about the peripheral things, the things that happen when the fans are not able to see or we're not privy to. Again, I don't have any ins in this industry, so I don't know what's happening behind closed doors. But this is another example of what I believe personally can help take Scottie Barnes to the next level, right? And I know that he's building relationships with the guys on this team and all that. And it's going to be important that the Raptors start to solidify their roster a little bit. And we've done that in certain aspects in terms of making sure that IQ, Scottie, and RJ are going to be the main core for right now. And it'll be important for Scottie as the leader of this team to truly understand what makes those players tick, what makes those players go. And he always needs to be up and ready and push himself to be the best version of himself and to also help his teammates be the best version of themselves, right? And Kobe talked about this in terms of each teammate might have something different that makes them tick, right? It can't be a one size fits all approach to the game, to how you treat your teammates. And this is also important for coaches as well. But a lot of the times, the star player on the team is an extension of the coach. So there's just a different relationship between the players and player and coach, right? And the star player of each team should probably have a different relationship with the coach than anybody else, a more unique relationship than anyone else, also, if you're going to be that extension on the floor and in practice and in the film room, right? And I I need to see more leadership abilities from Scottie Barnes, right? Because when you're pushing everybody to be the best version of themselves, we don't have a 17-30 team, right? Now, this is just what it is right now as this team is developing. And this team is actually in flux because the trade deadline is less than a week away. And this team may look different come February the 8th at 3 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? So, Scottie Barnes, in order to be that superstar, in order to be that great, he's going to need to take that next step, not just in the film room, but also in practice, right? And you have to know, like, you have to really love this game, almost like to an obsession, love this game, because that's something that you hear about all the greats say, you know? Find things that motivate you as well. Like when you listen to Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, this guy was talking about all the different like players and coaches and media personalities like that had something to say about him at every level, even coaches and front office. Like this guy was like obsessed with just doing what they said he couldn't do, right? In terms of the score, like him being a scoring champion, and the scoring champion will never win an NBA championship. He did it. They're talking about, oh, you can't play more than 14 minutes a game after he broke his foot back, what was it, 84, 85 or something like that. And he's like, but I'm playing for 2 hours in the gym every day, and you're telling me I could only play 7 to 14 minutes on the court? Like rubbish. Like there has to be an obsession to want to be great. And I believe like superstars just have it. They understand it and what it takes in order to get to that next level, right? And some of it is politicking. It's politicking with your teammates and understanding what makes them tick so that they can get emotionally invested, as Kobe said, to being the best version of themselves, you know? And he's always just trying to drive them and challenge them in practice. Now, again, I've never seen the Raptors practice. I don't know what's happening in practice. But these are two things that go outside of the X's and O's, outside of just shooting the three, like that drives greatness in a player, right? And with Scottie Barnes' unique skill set, right, at his size, where he's fast, he's strong, he can dribble, he can shoot. He can shoot now, okay? He can shoot the three. He can post up. He can rebound. He can get the ball on the outlet and go. He's amazing in the fast break. He makes some good decisions, makes some bad decisions, but he makes some good decisions on those fast breaks and passes and things of that nature, right? So he has a skill set that can be transferable when these other aspects of the game, when the work is put in, you know? And it's not like this team is not talented enough in order to get better over the next few seasons when we just look at the core of this team, right? Like, I'm pretty high on RJ Barrett's fit with this Toronto Raptors team in Darko Rajakovic's system. I'm high and optimistic about Emmanuel Quickly on what he can be. Now, they said this guy is going to be like a Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey had 51 points last night against the Jazz. 51. If Emmanuel Quickly can develop that type of consistency where he could be like a Tyrese Maxey, because that's what everybody was saying he can be, yes, it's going to start with him as a player. But as the leader on the team, Scottie Barnes has to be able to push those buttons of an Emmanuel Quickly, push those buttons of an RJ Barrett, push those buttons of the guys on the bench to step up their game. Whoever's going to be on the bench, whatever the bench is going to look like in the next few days to the offseason and into next year. Grady Dick, another one of those players. What makes him tick? What makes him like just drive towards being better, you know? And I feel like Scottie Barnes is going to be an integral part, or he needs to be an integral part in terms of how this team is going to have that growth mindset. And I believe that Masai Ujiri has set that culture within the Raptors organization for that. But he also doesn't overstep his boundaries, right? Like, true leaders know how to delegate too, right? Like, Masai Ujiri set the culture, but I'm delegating a lot of the X's and those things to the coach because that is the coach's job, right? There's no need for Masai Ujiri to get down and practice and say, do this and do that, right? That is the coach's job. And sometimes the coach has to delegate responsibilities and whatnot to the assistant coaches. And the assistant coaches have jobs that they're going to develop, that they are going to pass on to the vets on the team and to Scottie Barnes as a leader on the team. And it's a cultural thing that I believe is already there, okay? Some of it just needs to be built out a little bit more because there's a lot of new pieces from the coaching staff to the players and people that are now in new roles within an organization, whether it's Coach Darko as being his first time as head coach, whether it's Scottie Barnes now being the number one undisputed leader on this Raptors basketball team, with the departure of Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby. Like, this is his team now, right? And yeah, I hold out some reservations in terms of whether he can be the superstar player, the Hall of Fame player that we need him to be. Because one of the things, again, that has eluded this franchise and that I think will take this franchise to a whole new level if they're able to do this. But to be able to draft a guy and that guy becomes a superstar, that means guys now want to, like other players around the league, want to come play with you. They want to come play with you. When you look at a guy like Giannis, okay, Milwaukee, small market team, they're able to go get Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday. Like, guys want to play with other superstars. And that's like, not to say that, you know, when you compare eras, superstars, and all that type of stuff, linking up and not linking up and wanting to beat the best. Listen, the league has grown to a place now where there are multiple stars in the league versus a time when maybe, you know, you may have, I don't know, a handful of guys that were superstars or that were stars in the league, and it was almost impossible for them to link up, you know? But the way that business has evolved now in the NBA, and the cultures have changed and guys have just gotten better, like more players. It's not just choosing from a pool of players from the US. You're now getting superstars from Canada Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's on the cusp of becoming a superstar, who is the number 1 seed right now in the West. Maybe they're number 2. Last I saw, they were number 1. And you have guys like Luka Doncic, who just put up 73 points the other night, threatening Kobe Bryant's 81 points that he put up against the Raptors back in whatever year it was. You know, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. Like, there's stars all over the map. Stars all over the map and superstars all over the map. And guys want to play with those guys. So if the Raptors are ever going to be a real player in free agency, you have to have a superstar on the team already, right? Like, we talk about this all the time as Raptors fans. Like, yo, the Raptors are not going to be able to attract any superstars in free agency. But why would anyone just want to come to Toronto when there's no stars here? Right? Now, we can give you 1,000 reasons as to why they would, with us just being here in Toronto and the way that we look at the game. But the proof is that they're not coming for these very reasons. But when Vince Carter was here, hell, look how many guys were able to sign to come over here and play with Vince Carter. Now, that may not be like the greatest examples. We got like a back end of career Kareem Olajuwon, but you know, we're able to sign guys that were here because they wanted to play with Vince Carter. It's not that they necessarily wanted to play in Toronto. Sure, guys love the city of Toronto, but wanting to actually like live here outside the United States is a whole other conversation that Raptors fans, if we're being truthful with ourselves, we know what it is, yo. Guys generally don't want to leave the United States because for whatever reasons. They want to play in the United States. They're from there. They'd rather play at home. But that changes now if Scottie Barnes is able to develop into a superstar. That changes now if the Raptors are able to go into the draft and find some other really young players that develop into a star player or a superstar player where you need one more piece. Maybe you're able to go bring him over in free agency or make a trade for a guy that say, yo, I'm willing to re-sign with Toronto now that I'm on the last year of my contract. Because we just seen this year with Pascal Siakam, where there was a whole lot of conversations where it's like teams don't necessarily want to trade for him because he's on the last year of his contract and he wasn't saying that he would sign with other teams. So there's a lot of risk involved with that. Indiana took on that risk, so kudos to them. But I guarantee you, man, if we can get a superstar here in Toronto, homegrown, and not to say homegrown like you need to be from Canada. I'm talking about homegrown from the draft. You understand? Homegrown from the draft, grew up within the Raptors organization, and you become a superstar. So if Scottie Barnes wants to take that leap and be that guy, like he needs to start with these few things on the peripheral, right? Number one, get in the film room, bro. Get in the film room. Watch as much film as you can, right? Because you're going to like be honest with yourself and figure out what your weaknesses are. What are your strengths, right? You're going to do more of this and less of that. You know what I'm saying? Or if guys are playing you this way, these are the counters. Or when I'm seeing this defense, maybe it's a certain type of zone that they're playing against you, where maybe, you know, there's a double out of the zone every time you touch the ball. I don't know, right? But you're figuring out now NBA defenses just by watching film and understanding how guys are playing you based on your skill set. And now you're going to have focused things that you're going to work on now during the season in practice and in the off season that are going to offset those challenges. And then you know what's going to happen after that? They're going to figure out how to come at you with those couple of moves. And then you're going to do the same thing. Keep watching film and you're going to stay ahead of it. And you're going to figure out how to actually be like, okay, well, this is how they're playing me. If I do this, this, and that. If I decide to add this to my game, they may defend me that way. So I'm going to do 2 counters built off of that. That's staying ahead of the competition, man. It's sickening the way that some of these greats go about the game. Sickening. But that's what it takes. if you want to be a great player in the NBA, if you want to be a Hall of Fame player, if you want to be the first player drafted to the Raptors, that was the reason why you won a championship, like a real superstar type of guy. Sure, Pascal won a championship here, but he wasn't the number one option. A lot of people argue that he wasn't even the number two option. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to like send shots at Pascal or anything like that. He wasn't able to carry, man. He did all he could do for this franchise. We are moving forward and we are developing. And I want to see how Scottie Barnes is going to approach this, right? I would love to hear an interview next year where they ask Scottie Barnes about a play and he's able to just rattle off what that play was and more. I would love for someone to interview Jordan Nwora next year, because hopefully we resign him. And he's talking about Scottie Barnes' leadership and how he's pushing everybody to be better in practice. I want to hear about the head coaches and the assistant coaches when they show up to the building, Scottie Barnes is already in the gym. Or maybe when they're leaving the building in the nighttime, Scottie Barnes is getting up some shots after the game. I want Scottie Barnes to truly obsess about the game of basketball. And maybe I'm asking a lot. But Raptors fans, aren't we tired of like not having our own superstar? Like, our only championship is so bittersweet because DeMar DeRozan wanted to be here, but he wasn't able to get us over the hump. And then we were able to get Kawhi Leonard and we actually won a championship. And then the homeboy just dipped out, bro. Dipped out. And that's to no fault of Kawhi Leonard. He said that's what he wanted to do from time. We knew what it was. But when you have a guy that you draft and you develop and he becomes just obsessed with the game and all he wants to do is just be better, and he's willing to go above and beyond to get himself better and his teammates better, and we're able to win a championship that way, where we can truly defend that championship with guys that want to be here, it'll hit different, man. It'll hit different. So yeah, man, that is the episode for today. So if you made it to the end of this episode, I appreciate you. If you're not subbed, please sub up, like, share, subscribe. Comment if you think I'm just being too harsh on Scottie Barnes. I don't think I'm being harsh at all, because I feel like I'm being objective. I'm not saying that he's not doing these things. I'm just saying, based on the interview that he had, it kind of appears as if he's not spending enough time in the film room. And generally speaking, I know this team is in flux, but when you are a leader on the team, it's kind of apparent, and you can see it on the court and you can see it in the performance. So I would like to see more of that. But if you have a different take on it, put it down below in the comments. Let's discuss it and all that. So yeah, man, that is it for today. The Raptors play the Houston Rockets tonight on the road at Houston against Fred VanVleet. Okay, cool. I think I'll definitely be tuning in for that, because I want to see what Fred looks like on this team. I haven't watched a whole lot of Rockets games this year. I've watched like highlights and stuff like that, but I'd like to see what Fred's looking like on this team. You know, Dylan Brooks, shout out to Canada. I really like Dylan Brooks, man. I'd actually love to see Dylan Brooks in a Raptors uniform. Real talk, man. And like, I know a lot of us look at him as like he might be a little bit of a bonehead sometimes, but like what he did for Team Canada at the FIBA Worlds, like he showed me that when his head is in the game properly, yo, this guy is a force. He's a force, man. And yeah, so I'll be watching that one, and stay tuned for the next joint. So yo, You, you know the flex. It's me, guy.